Science is a systematic enterprise that builds and organizes knowledge in the form of testable explanations and predictions about the world. The earliest roots of science can be traced back to ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia in around 3000 to 1200 BCE. This is a rough definition of science that most people believe. What the science actually is a belief system. Anybody who has been seriously engaged in scientific work of any kind realizes over the entrance to the gates of the temple of science are written the words, "Ye must have faith." Max Planck. And that is what science is. It's a belief system, founded and clouded by the ideology of man, skewed, distorted, moulded to fit the ideological values of those with the money to fund what they wish to be found or what they desire to be dismissed.
Christoph, let me ask you, why do you think that Truman has never come close to discovering the true nature of his world until now?
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
We are taken into an institution as children. We are dressed in uniforms, corralled and herded from classroom to classroom as our teachers were before us, as we are given statements, disguised as questions. We partake in exams to declare how well we understand the science. This is a fallacy. All we are doing is agreeing with what we are told is the facts. And the more we agree with these statements, posed insidiously as questions, the more qualified we become. Any arguments, no matter how profound and revelatory, will be mocked, derided, lambasted, as will be the people that purport them. We have computers and cars and smartphones and all sorts of wondrous technology, and this is where we hide the lies. Because where best to hide a tree? In the forest, amongst the other trees. True technological advancement based on scientific principles are mixed with profane lies, poems and hypothetical ideas peddled as science. We are all forced to agree with these fallacies. Thus they become the only things we hypothesize about, the only things that get funding, the only things those professing themselves to be wise will open their ears to. Yet with all these hypotheses, culminating in theories, despite the billions of man-hours, the universities, the laboratories, what we don't have are facts.
A couple of years ago, I was asked to do a Bible study group. I'm thinking Catholics don't do Bible studies, you know. And to do a Bible study group in Houston. I'm going, Catholics definitely don't do Bible studies in Texas. To do a Bible study group in Houston with a bunch of astronauts. Astronauts, oh, I could do that, yeah. So I wound up at a dinner evening of about 12 couples, all of them astronauts and spouses. One of the guys, half of them were Catholic as it turns out, so much for Catholics not doing Bible studies. One of the guys came up to me and said, you know, I just want to let you know, I believe in the absolute truth that creation was made in the 6 days just as described in the book of Genesis. And that's my religion. I just want to let you know that ahead of time. And I'm thinking, you know, have you actually read Genesis? Where it says the world is flat and it's covered with a dome and there's water above and below the dome, you know. Where does the shuttle go? How come you don't get wet? But then he told me a little bit more. He said, you know, before he was an astronaut, he was a test pilot. Test pilots, you don't want to have the habit of creatively reinterpreting their written instructions. And that's true of computer programmers, and that's true of engineers in general. These are people whose world depends on them literally interpreting the material that they've been given. And so to them, the Bible is just another owner's manual, because that's the way they view the world. Whereas in the ancient world, you know, what are the oldest books we have? The Iliad, the Odyssey, they're poems. They're books of poetry. And the world was interpreted in terms of metaphor and simile. And of course, the crazy thing is, science itself is metaphor and simile. Newton's equation for the fall of a rock due to the laws of gravity is a poem. It says the path of this falling rock is like the solution to this equation. It's not that they're the same thing. And you know, the sad thing of that statement about evolution being proved, evolution is not going to be proved. Nothing in science is ever proved. Science describes, it doesn't prove.
Now, brainwashing is a term bandied about flippantly and frequently nowadays, but I use it to describe the process of mind alteration that we have the temerity to call an education. Never has there been a more effective, covert and thorough mechanism of changing social values and ideals in the name of education, relying on one's ego combined with the others of those most educated to build a wall opposed to truth. And I've come to realize that intelligence does not necessarily make you correct, but it most certainly makes you excellent at being wrong. So let's follow the science, not the facts, not the truth, but the science, the word given by perceived authority figures that we do not dare question. And as surely as the supposed man of God tells us we cannot understand the complexities of his word, and we must defile ourselves and give him wealth and power and respect as he is the chosen one, is as surely as we follow the men of science who tell us to give him wealth, power and respect. The men did not change. The method of control did. Blind faith, not in science, oh no, but the men that expound it. And what do these great men of science say, these pastors, these professors, these preachers? What do they tell us ignorant masses that we cannot understand but we all pretend to? That you're an animal, you're a beast of the field. There are too many animals of the you variety. You suck the earth dry of its goodness as a pig snorting in its trough until its gluttonous nature is satiated temporarily, only to refill and repeat endlessly until its demise as pointless as its existence. And what do we do with animals who impact an ecosystem? We cull them. And this is most certainly true of animals that destroy the world's ecosystem at large. That is a scientific certainty. So to end, if you trust the science, you must trust that you're an animal on a spinning globe, a soulless meat sack who suffers the illusion of love, the illusion of happiness and contentment as dopamine, serotonin, various chemical compounds and neurological stimuli control your actions and thoughts, spellbinding you into the perception of a personality. Here's my advice to you, listener. Prepare to be culled and do not dare to be surprised.